My love for Clara was the kind that consumes you. When she offhandedly mentioned a dream of becoming a singer, I saw it as my life's mission to make it a reality. I poured every resource at my disposal into her career, leveraging my company, my connections, and my personal wealth to pave her way. I asked for nothing in return, content to be the silent architect of her success. But when she finally stood at the pinnacle of the music world, a celebrated star, she looked back and saw only her own talent. In her eyes, my contributions were non-existent, my support an irrelevant footnote. She left me with a cold finality, rekindling a romance with her old campus crush, Mark. One moment I was drowning in betrayal and a terminal cancer diagnosis, and the next, I blinked. The world snapped back into focus. I was in my office, the day before I made the decision that set my tragic life in motion. This time, when faced with a line of hopeful new artists, I looked past Clara and pointed to another beautiful young woman. Clara, unprepared for my rejection, lost her composure completely. Her eyes, red with a furious disbelief, locked onto mine. "Ethan," she pleaded, "you can't just leave me." In my first life, Clara had announced her wedding date to Mark with a triumphant social media post. "After everything, it's still you," she wrote. A public declaration that twisted the knife. As the reigning queen of pop, a goddess in the eyes of the nation, the news of her engagement to Mark caused a digital explosion. Within minutes, every platform was saturated with the announcement, a deluge of comments ranging from heartfelt congratulations to the laments of heartbroken fans. "Congrats! We always knew Clara had someone special," one comment read. "I didn't expect it was Mark, but they're perfect for each other." Another praised her loyalty, asking, "So is everything with Ethan fake?" Watching that same online frenzy play out in my memory, I slowly dialed Clara's number. She declined my call 7 times before finally answering on the 8th. Her voice was glacial. "Ethan, I'm about to get married. Stop pestering me," she said, her tone sharp and dismissive. "I am not a vine that needs to cling to a tree to survive. You always tried to arrogantly plan my life for me. Only Mark respects me and gives me the space I need. Everything I have today is because of my own efforts. I've had enough of your psychological games." Before I could utter a single word, she hung up. That day was not only the day of her engagement announcement, but also my birthday. It was also the day my doctor gave me my terminal cancer notice. Outside my hospital window, the wind was gentle, the sky a serene blue, just as it had been the day I first met Clara. She was a striking girl holding a stack of books, her gaze meeting mine with a calm, cool indifference. From that moment, I was a moth drawn to a flame, destined to be burned and ultimately despised for my devotion. Who would willingly choose the life of an obsessive admirer if not for a love that felt absolute? Yet in the end, I was left with nothing. My years of effort, my unconditional support, were reframed as psychological manipulation. Consumed by mental and physical agony, my eyes remained fixed on the gray, lifeless screen of my phone. It never lit up again. I died waiting for a call that never came. Blinking, I was pulled from the haze of that painful memory by my assistant's voice. "Ethan, here are the new recruits. Which one catches your eye?" I snapped back to the present, my gaze sweeping across the familiar, minimalist design of my conference room. I knew this room. I knew this day. Lined up before me were several young women, all of them radiating a pure, pretty youthfulness. And among them, standing slightly off to the side, was Clara. Even at the edge of the group, she was impossible to miss. Her clothes and shoes were worn, lacking the polish of the others, but nothing could diminish her stunning beauty. She was like a swan born in the mud, deserving to be lifted from the mire and placed amongst the stars. Though I thought those memories had faded with my death, they suddenly felt as fresh as if they had happened yesterday. I remembered everything that was about to unfold. I was reborn, sent back to the exact moment I had first chosen to support Clara. In my previous life, I had been captivated at first sight. Knowing she was struggling financially, I had her sign with my entertainment company, putting the full weight of my resources behind her without asking for anything in return. Only later did I learn it was all part of her calculated plan to use me as a stepping stone to fame. Once she achieved success, she began to complain that I was too controlling, that I disrespected her independence. She manufactured arguments over the smallest issues, and I, blinded by love, would work tirelessly to appease her, barely earning her forgiveness. After I secured a few key resources for her, her career flourished. She grew bored of my endless devotion, convincing herself that her success was entirely her own, and that I was nothing more than a cage limiting her spirit. During my final illness, she met my suffering with silence, betrayed me with my rival Mark, and leaked my company's confidential secrets, causing devastating financial losses. My fingers idly flipped through the stack of resumes on the table. My eyes stopped on Clara's photo. At 18, she was fresh-faced, her expression defiant. She was even more beautiful in person. She had been the school's most popular girl, excelling in her studies while juggling 5 part-time jobs to make ends meet. She topped her class and had won numerous regional talent contests. Yet looking at her now, I felt nothing. The all-consuming desire to give her the world had vanished the moment I drew my last breath. Seeing me pause on Clara's profile, my assistant, ever perceptive, leaned in. "Ethan, Clara's really promising. If you choose her, I'm sure she'll be a huge star." Clara pursed her lips, a confident shimmer in her eyes as she looked at me. She seemed so certain that I would pick her. She was young, beautiful, with an alluring mix of innocence and defiance. It was a combination few men could resist. In the next second, I placed Clara's resume aside and casually picked up another one from the pile. "I'll take her," I said, my voice even. Clara stared at me, her eyelashes trembling like the wings of a betrayed butterfly. If she wanted freedom so badly, she could have it. My company was one of the top entertainment agencies in the country. In my past life, knowing she needed money, I had signed her to an A-class contract, giving a complete newcomer the best possible terms. If she didn't need that support, I would take it all back. We would see just how far her own abilities could truly take her. "Everyone else will have their chance in due time," I announced to the room. "The company won't just support one person. Once you prove your value, the opportunity to rise will present itself." A girl in the line broke into a confident, ambitious smile. "Ethan picked me? Are you sure there's no chance for anyone else?" The voice belonged to Chloe, the young woman whose resume I now held. Her profile was the most promising of the group. She had a beautiful face and a slender figure. Dressed in simple black, with her hair tied back casually, she wore almost no makeup, yet she was still strikingly charming and elegant. "Here's to a great partnership," I said, extending my hand to shake hers. At that moment, Clara's beautiful, tender face looked utterly lost, fragile, and on the verge of tears. It was a truly pitiful sight. She clutched the hem of her washed-out dress so tightly that her pretty knuckles turned white, her eyes slightly red, like a sad, droopy-eared bunny. "I knew it," she muttered under her breath. "Men are all liars. I can only rely on myself." People nearby began to cast subtle, knowing looks in my direction. They were all aware of my well-known infatuation with Clara, Yet, I felt nothing. "You must be joking," I said, addressing the room but looking at Clara. "The company treats everyone equally. Talented people will naturally stand out. I'm just here to see what you can do. However, after signing with us, being publicly chummy with rival entertainment companies is not a good look. Please remember our artist code of conduct." Clara shot me a glare, her beautiful eyes filled with an endless sense of grievance. "They approached me, but I didn't go. It was just a meal, Ethan. Are you choosing someone else because of this? I'm so disappointed in you." "No fame, no fortune," I said, interlacing my fingers and laying out the cold facts. "Why would a rival company offer to pay a hefty contract termination fee to sign you? They just want leverage against me, thinking we have some kind of special relationship." "Ethan, how could you think that way about me?" she cried. "I won't forgive you for this." Clara turned dramatically and stormed away like a fluttering butterfly, but I noticed she slowed her pace after a few steps, perhaps expecting me to chase after her. When I didn't move, her body stiffened, and then she broke into a sprint and disappeared. "Ethan, should we—" my assistant began. "No need to look for her," I replied coolly. "She'll come back once she's calmed down. If not, pursue her for breach of contract." Everyone else remained silent, except for Chloe, who couldn't hold back a small laugh. She noticed my gaze and gave me a slight nod, exuding a lazy charm. Chloe teased, "Ethan, you're so easygoing. If I ever talked to my old boss like that, I'd be packing my bags." I smiled back. "It's not that I want Clara gone, but there's always someone willing to step in and take her place." After deciding to back Chloe, her schedule was immediately packed. She was so grateful for the opportunity that she worked tirelessly, even finding time to write 2 original songs and add them to the company's music library. "These 2 songs are yours," I told her, pointing to the files on the screen. They were the very same songs that had made Clara a household name in my past life. Chloe, who had been dozing on the couch in my office, sat up immediately. "I'm sorry, Ethan. They were rushed. I'll do better next time." In my past life, after I started promoting Clara, I spent a fortune to quietly get rid of any talent that was similar to her or younger. Looking at Chloe's fresh, youthful face, I couldn't believe I had let such a gem slip through my fingers. I had been such a pushover before, and it had gotten me nowhere. "I mean, you should rest too," I said gently. "Don't overwork yourself." I patted her shoulder, as if dusting off a golden treasure. Grinning warmly, I added, "Keep up the good work, and I'll give you a raise." Chloe's eyes welled up with gratitude. "Oh, Ethan, with your encouragement, I'd do anything for the company. Ah, may I treat you to dinner tonight?" Just as I was about to agree, my phone buzzed. It was a voice message from Clara. "Ethan, I want those 2 songs," she demanded, her tone cold, as if she were still holding a grudge. She had attached the files for the very songs Chloe had just written. I replied patiently, "Those songs are slated for Chloe's debut album." A moment later, a single question mark appeared from her. I almost replied with a question mark of my own, but restrained myself. Then, I saw the notification. She had blocked me. Staring at the red exclamation mark on my phone's screen, I remembered all the times she had treated me like her personal lackey. I called my assistant. "Revoke all of Clara's special privileges. From now on, she gets the same treatment as every other artist. The mightier they are, the harder they fall." At the restaurant that evening, I courteously pulled out a chair for Chloe. Her face flushed a delicate shade of pink. "Thank you, Ethan." "No problem," I said, letting her order whatever she wanted. When I was about to pay the bill, she stopped me. "Ethan, you're the best boss I've ever had. Please let me treat you." Over dinner, Chloe shared stories of her previous work experiences, a series of terrible jobs where she faced bullying and inappropriate offers from superiors, causing her to hop from one company to another. She was considering this her last chance in the industry before giving up and facing her parents' plans for her back home. "Meeting you, Ethan," Chloe said, her eyes shining with sincerity, "makes every bad experience I went through feel worth it." I listened intently, gauging her character. Suddenly, I heard the sound of shattering glass from behind me. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Clara stood a few tables away, looking shaken, her eyes red and accusing. "You two are secretly together, aren't you? That's why you chose her over me. I should have known. You're just like all those other disgusting men." "Clara, nothing is happening here. This is a regular restaurant. Can you please stop assuming the worst of people?" But before I could finish, Chloe slammed her hand on the table. "Ethan is handsome, young, and charming. Even if I wanted to be with him, the final decision would be up to him." Her bold words surprised me so much I almost spit out my drink. Clara completely ignored her, her gaze fixed on me with sheer frustration. "Ethan, you never used to be like this." It was true. In the past, I had meticulously kept my distance from other women, never agreeing to personal invitations or allowing any physical contact. My friends used to laugh and call me an old-fashioned prude, but I was just trying to prevent Clara from overthinking things. Yet, in her eyes, my fidelity was simply a given, as if I had no other options or lacked any charm of my own. Still, she had no right to say this to me now. "Clara, what business is it of yours?" Chloe glanced at the middle-aged man standing awkwardly beside Clara. "Aren't you here with someone else? Wow, talk about bad taste." "I was just making it clear that I wasn't going to join his company," Clara retorted, shooting Chloe a death glare. She turned back to me. "Ethan, are you just going to let her insult me like that? Aren't you afraid I'll stop talking to you?" Amid her hopeful, expectant gaze, I simply went back to eating my meal. Finally, after a long, deliberate pause, I slowly looked up. "Clara, if you want to leave the company, remember to follow the procedures outlined by HR. The penalty for an A-list artist breaking their contract is, at a minimum, 10 times the initial investment." The thought of Clara leaving and having to pay me millions actually made my appetite grow. The middle-aged man with Clara was named Mr. Henderson, a manager from a rival entertainment company whom I recognized from an industry party. I hadn't expected him to be part of the team trying to poach Clara. Once Henderson saw my cold reaction, his enthusiasm visibly faded. He gave me an awkward, ingratiating smile and said, "Ethan, let's set up a dinner sometime." Then, without giving Clara so much as a second glance, he hurried away. "Ethan, are you still mad at me?" Clara finally seemed to sense that something was truly wrong. Her voice trembled. "Ethan, do you really believe what she said? I've been waiting for your message every single day. I've been trying to make peace, sending you voice messages asking for the songs, but you just got angrier with me." She explained how she had coincidentally met Mr. Henderson at her part-time job and had flatly rejected his offer to join his company. Tears streamed down her face like a broken string of pearls, making her look heartbreakingly beautiful. A small crowd started to gather, some even taking out their phones to take photos. Clara, who once cared so deeply about her public image that she wouldn't even let us be seen in public together, now seemed completely unfazed, her intense gaze locked only on me. I finally spoke. "Clara, you don't really think I can't see through this act, do you? I'm done being your doormat. I'm giving you the freedom you always said you wanted." I was willing to take back everything I had given her and let her achieve her dreams through her own efforts, which I considered a generous act. but if she continued to push her luck, my kindness would run out. "My identity? Aren't I your girlfriend?" she asked, struggling to keep her footing. "Didn't you promise you'd love and protect me forever? Why did everything change this time?" She let out a bitter, desperate laugh. "Ethan, is lying to yourself really that fun? I don't believe you don't love me anymore. When I make it on my own, you'll regret this." Then she turned and ran off again. As I watched her go, I sensed something was off. Could she have been reborn as well? And what about Mark? Could he be back too? I carefully hid my expression, but a thought took root in my mind. If we were all back, it meant I could finally settle the scores from my previous life. Clara didn't terminate our contract. In the following days, she worked diligently, taking on all the appearances the company arranged for her, hoping to prove she could succeed without me. Clara had always been proud and disliked networking events, a preference I had always respected. I had handled all the business meetings and negotiations for her, often smoothing things over with my own money when necessary. She had gotten used to having opportunities handed to her on a silver platter. After her rebirth, she thought she could leverage her knowledge of the future to gain better opportunities, but in reality, she struggled more than some of the more adaptable new artists at the company. Without my direct support, she couldn't land any decent deals despite her obvious talent. After punching a director who tried to get handsy with her during a dinner, Clara could only accept minor television gigs for exposure. She was slowly realizing just how crucial my behind-the-scenes support had been in her past life. But she still clung to the belief that she could achieve fame on her own, albeit a few years later. Despite her burning jealousy over the way Chloe was being treated, Clara couldn't get an appointment to see me whenever she pleased anymore. She questioned my assistant, accusing me of sabotaging her career. My assistant calmly reassured her that she was still receiving good treatment, as she at least had opportunities for exposure, something many newcomers would kill for. Clara tried to pick songs from the company library, but found she couldn't access anything above a C-list ranking due to her status and lack of connections. The songs she ended up with fizzled out upon release. Reality eventually humbled her. She no longer held her nose high in the air and began accepting small advertising jobs she had previously ignored, finally taking the typical path of a struggling newbie. She still seemed to think that I would eventually break, lower myself, and apologize. She couldn't comprehend why I had changed so much, or perhaps she simply didn't want to admit that I was no longer her pushover. Because of this stubborn pride, she never sought me out directly until a few months later. By then, Chloe had written over 10 songs, and her solo album was officially on the agenda. At a company meeting, I announced that Chloe's album would be our main quarterly focus. That announcement finally pushed Clara to her limit. That day, after parking my car and locking the door, I was about to press the fingerprint scanner to enter my apartment building when I noticed a fragile figure sitting desolately by my door. It was Clara. She was dressed in a simple white dress that showed off her figure and long legs, with her dark hair cascading down to her waist. Her delicate face was full of vulnerability as she hugged her knees, blowing into her palms for warmth. She had clearly been waiting for a long time. When she saw me, her eyes lit up instantly, and she scrambled to her feet. Dizzy from low blood sugar, she wavered for a moment, her lips slightly parted. Though frail, she somehow seemed more enticing than ever. "Ethan, you're back," she shivered. "I'm so cold. Hold me." She rushed toward me, ready to collapse into my arms, but I lifted my hand, stopping her advance. "Clara, behave yourself." Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she clutched my shirt, tears of grievance falling from her eyes. "Ethan, with you. I never had to go to those awful social events or drink with sleazy men. I almost crippled a guy who tried to touch me. Now I realize how well you protected me. Without your protection, they all bully me. Ethan, I admit I was wrong. Can you please stop this?" Standing before her tearful, pleading eyes, I remained silent. I sneered. "Clara, it looks like you still don't get it. Right now, you are just an artist signed to my company. To be blunt, you're just an unfinished product." I lifted her chin, a smirk playing on my face. "Clara, if you want me to exploit you for your body, don't pretend to be noble. Don't disgust me." Clara stared at me, her eyes desperately searching for the old Ethan who used to cherish her. Seeing the genuine coldness in my expression, her eyes filled with fresh tears. "Ethan, when did you become so harsh? How can you talk to me like this? Do you really see me that way? If it wasn't you, I would never do this. If you don't want people to see you as cheap, then stop doing cheap things like waiting scantily clad outside a man's door," I said, releasing her chin. I tried to walk past her into the building, but she grabbed me from behind. "Ethan, I know you're still mad at me. I'm really, truly sorry. You can't leave me." She anxiously clung to me, looking desperate. "Ethan, you know me. I just never believed any man could truly care for me without expecting something in return. I got engaged to Mark just to test your feelings for me. I know I've been selfish, but didn't you spoil me into being this way? I called off the engagement to come find you, but you had disappeared. Don't you remember? I told you about my abusive father, my stepfather who nearly assaulted me, and my brother who tried to sell me. Since I was young, I've never been able to trust men. What else could I do?" I could feel her hot tears soaking the collar of my shirt, and I almost laughed out loud. The soul-crushing despair Clara had given me in my past life was all for these ridiculous, selfish reasons. Thankfully, the romantic fool in me had died a long time ago. I coldly pried her hands from my back. "It's because I used to love you, Clara, that I endlessly tolerated you and your issues. But you've long since worn out all the love I had for you. Don't you know? The Ethan who loved you died of stomach cancer." Upon hearing these words, I saw Clara's face go blank for the first time, as if her soul had fled her body. She didn't believe me, accusing me of joking and assuming I looked down on her because she wasn't famous yet. She was convinced that the Ethan who would always wait for her, no matter how much she hurt him, couldn't possibly have died. She claimed she would become even more famous in this life, and that I would live to regret my decision. Clara's future fame didn't matter to me in the slightest, but my old foe, Mark, contacted me first. "Let Clara go." Mark's familiar, arrogant voice came from the other end of the line. "Ethan, name your price. Consider it compensation from a defeated rival." So, he was also reincarnated. How could I not take advantage of such a perfect opportunity? 30 times the penalty fee, and Clara is yours, I said, intentionally provoking him. "Stop pretending, Ethan," he scoffed. "Do you think throwing out a big number will scare me? I'm not like you, some nouveau riche trash. That amount is nothing to me." "All right. Pay up in one go, and you can take her away." Mark, always driven by pride, would never back down in front of me. In my past life, my attempts to leave a good impression on Clara meant I had to swallow every bitter pill when dealing with rivals like him. "Fine. Keep your word, and don't bother Clara again." Mark snorted coldly before hanging up. He would likely play the recording for Clara, thinking I would backtrack. He didn't even try to haggle. I immediately called Chloe over. We planned her album release for the same day Clara was scheduled to leave the company. I asked her what she wanted to name the album. Chloe looked at me with a bright, genuine smile. "Gift. I feel like meeting you, Ethan, was the greatest gift I could ever receive." I agreed, thinking the name was perfect. On the day Clara left, the company released Chloe's debut album, Gift, across all major platforms. It featured Chloe's original songs, including the 2 massive hits that had made Clara a sensation in my past life. This time, I had Chloe use them as the lead singles. As expected, the moment they were released, coupled with a massive promotional blitz funded by Mark's penalty payment, the album went viral. Chloe, with her striking appearance and undeniable talent, quickly skyrocketed in popularity, booking endorsement deals non-stop. She was hailed by critics and fans as the next diva. What I didn't expect was for Chloe to include 2 more songs on the album, one praising the company and another praising her boss, me. These creative, quirky songs also climbed the charts, giving the company an enormous amount of positive publicity. Talented newcomers began flocking to our agency, hoping to sign with us. "Ethan, I'll write more great songs for the company and make even more money for us," Chloe, now a famous star, said as she nervously clasped her hands, looking up at me. You wouldn't fire me, right?" Amused by her insecurity, I replied, "You're the company's biggest cash cow. Why on earth would I fire you?" "Deal, Ethan. Let's renew the contract." After I said this, Chloe, as if she had been prepared for this moment, pulled a renewal contract from her purse and placed it on my desk. It stated that she voluntarily agreed to a 20-year contract, her only condition being that she would not be let go. I slowly raised an eyebrow. Chloe was still young and wore her heart on her sleeve. Her clear eyes reflected a mixture of admiration and fondness for me. She was tiptoeing around cautiously, perhaps because she knew Clara had been sent away and feared I might do the same to her one day. I didn't sign it, simply promising her, "You're not like Clara. I won't treat you that way." Unfortunately, these words were overheard by Clara, who had come to pack up her belongings, and by Mark, who had accompanied her. Clara had lost a significant amount of weight, looking so frail that a strong gust of wind could sweep her away. She was a stark contrast to the bold, cold superstar she had been in the past. She wobbled slightly and almost fell over, but Mark caught her just in time. "Ethan," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It turns out you're the cruel one." She shook off Mark's arm, her gaze shifting between me and Chloe. "I hate you. I will never forgive you." Mark shot me an angry glare. "Clara is mine now. I'll make her an even bigger star than she was before. I bankrupted you once, and I can do it again. Just you wait." Then he rushed off to follow Clara. I couldn't help but chuckle. "My next song's gonna be a diss track about them," Chloe muttered, flipping them off as they walked away and rolling her eyes. So ordinary, yet so confident. Respect, but yeesh. I nodded in agreement. Mark was always so full of himself. He had bought back his own spy, stationed at my side, for 30 times the penalty fee. Did he really think he could get lucky a second time? After Clara signed with Mark's entertainment company, he went all out promoting her. However, he was too busy with his company's expansion to micromanage her career, so Clara had to attend networking events by herself. One time, an executive forced drinks on her until she passed out and almost took advantage of her. Fortunately, her agent sensed something was wrong and burst into the room just in time. When Mark found out, he was furious, retaliating viciously in the business world until the executive personally apologized to Clara. Because of this incident, Clara became known throughout the industry as Mark's beloved, untouchable little girlfriend. I got a random call that night, which I ignored. A text followed shortly after. "Ethan, what's the use of feeling guilty now? I almost suffered. When I was with you, they never had the chance to bully me. You cared about my dignity, even if it meant people thought you were an infatuated fool. Mark protects me openly, which just makes me look like his fling. Now I finally see who really had my back. But am I too late?" I sat there for a moment, then blocked the number without replying. Clara wanted to launch a solo career just like before, to prove herself against Chloe. But despite a big-budget album, she barely had 100 listeners online. It was a starkly different outcome from her past success. Mark knew how to spend money, but he had no idea about artistic planning. He didn't understand which songs matched Clara's style, which producers to hire, or how to market her unique strengths. Back then, I had done everything for her, painstakingly planning every single detail to smooth her path to fame. Mark couldn't understand why Clara was a hit before, but a flop now. He couldn't admit that he was worse than me, so he hyped Clara's image while using bots to bash Chloe online. Clara, who used to cherish her image and always resisted manufactured hype, was now beloved only as a national goddess in her own memories. Under Mark's guidance, she took on tacky drama roles and joined invasive reality shows, trading her privacy for fleeting fame. She became a provocative sensation, generating tons of buzz, but she was no different from the scandal-reliant stars she once despised. Clara grew increasingly miserable. My junk mail folder filled up with messages from unknown numbers, sharing her heartbreak, but I never read them, letting the system filter them automatically. On the other hand, I never let Chloe get mixed up in nonsense gigs, instead having her focus solely on her music. Her career soared. A year after her debut, she became a deserved judge on major music shows. I handled all the online trolling against her, suing where necessary to protect her reputation. Chloe was incredibly grateful, secretly writing 3 more songs full of praise for me. As Chloe's star continued to rise and Clara's career stagnated, Mark tried his old tricks. He secretly approached Chloe, promising to triple her pay and offering to buy out her contract. All she had to do was leak company information to him when needed. Chloe seemingly agreed. The next day, she dumped all of Mark's files and contracts on my desk, grinning. "Ethan, let's cash in again." Chloe knew that her album's production expenses had been paid for by Mark's breach of contract penalty. To her, Mark was just a fool with too much money. Instead of rejecting his advances, she decided to help add to our company's funds. So, I had Chloe occasionally send Mark some harmless but true information. Once Mark trusted her completely, we fed him false data on a series of critical projects. Mark took a major financial hit and flew into a rage. He paid a hefty sum to dig up dirt on Chloe, hiring private investigators to snap photos of her at high-class events with older men. David quickly bought the scandalous story to the top of the trending spots online, smugly sending me the photos to rub it in. The rumors of Chloe being a sugar baby spread like wildfire. While I was crafting a public relations strategy, Chloe rushed into my office looking scared. "Ethan, you won't fire me, right?" She was more concerned about her job than her own reputation. I laughed and said, "Just focus on your music. I'll handle this." With teary eyes, Chloe asked, "Aren't you going to ask for my side of the story?" "I know who you are. I trust you," I replied simply. I've been in this industry long enough to size people up. Chloe's honest gaze and the way she blushed whenever I got close told me everything I needed to know. She had no experience in love. Chloe teared up even more, choking out, "Ethan, I'll stick with you for life. But I can't keep hiding behind you. There's no need for you to handle this. I'll deal with it myself." When Chloe says she'll do something, she means it. She is quick and decisive. In just one afternoon, the rarely seen wealthiest man in the country made a public statement on social media to clear things up and sent legal letters to every outlet spreading the lies. Shockingly, the top pop star, Chloe, turned out to be a super rich kid. She was the daughter of the wealthiest person in the nation. After seeing the trending topics, I, as her boss, finally realized that Chloe was, in fact, a top-tier heiress. She was rebellious and didn't want to rely on her family, so she had struck out on her own. If she failed, she would have to return home to inherit the family fortune. So that's what happened in my previous life. Chloe's talent disappeared because I, afflicted by love's folly, let her go, forcing her to return home. "Ethan, will you fire me?" Chloe asked nervously after I learned about her identity. Her eyes were pleading, as if she would cry on the spot if I nodded. I sighed. "Of course not, Miss Heiress." "I knew it, Ethan. You're the best." Chloe threw herself at me for a hug and then quickly ran out the door. From behind, I could see her earlobes were flushed bright red. David's tricks had failed again, and he had gotten himself into serious trouble with Chloe's powerful family. He was forced to make up for it with a large portion of his personal assets. In every clash with me, he was practically handing me money at each step. Before he knew it, his entertainment company's cash flow was completely drained. He realized he'd never be able to beat me in major entertainment projects again. His only remaining hope rested on Nina becoming as popular as she once was. David went ahead and prepared Clara's second album, hoping for a comeback. But he only knew how to stir up hype, and faux popularity vanishes as quickly as it arrives. Once Clara's buzz died out, she was forgotten again. She was permanently labeled as a publicity stunt artist, a reputation that was impossible to shake. Good opportunities never came her way again. Producing an album costs a fortune, and the funds David had poured into Clara went down the drain. Without Clara leaking my company's confidential information, David's attempts to fight back were feeble, and his company dwindled into a second-rate entertainment firm. His shareholders eventually voted him out as CEO during a board meeting, replacing him with Ken, the son of a major investor. Ken knew how to assess the situation. He always greeted me with a bright smile and unfailing respect, never daring to offend me as he gradually built his power within the company. David completely lost his heir status. The string of failures eventually broke him. He deemed Clara the main culprit for his downfall, not only publicly smearing her online, but also frequently coming to the office to hit and verbally abuse her. People treated it like a joke, sharing the videos online, which gave Clara a brief, morbid bit of attention. Clara ended up hating David more than ever. She believed that if David hadn't contacted me back then, she would still be an artist at my company, with a chance to reconcile with me. After months of harsh survival in the popularity-chasing entertainment world, Clara clearly understood how much she regretted leaving me, and how laughable her claim to make it without me had been. She tried to reach out to me, but without my permission, she couldn't even find out where I was. Every text she sent was blocked and filtered, never receiving a reply. Clara often dreamt of the past, of the days when I adored her. The reality she woke up to was her unfulfilled dream of fame. In the company, as David's rumored former lover, she faced constant exclusion, and the new CEO, Ken, would never promote her. Her pride, which had been nurtured by my indulgence, was smoothed and worn down by the harsh realities of survival. She ended up live streaming and selling products online to make a living. She was no longer the untainted girl from back then, cherished and protected with every stumble. Eventually, Clara learned the ways of the dog-eat-dog world, but it was too late. She was left with only the rest of her life to reminisce about what could have been. Occasionally, after a busy day, Clara would look up to see Chloe's massive advertisements on digital displays, or interviews where I, as an entertainment mogul, was featured. Recalling my affection in a past life, she couldn't help but break down in tears on the street, heartbroken. The Ethan who loved me, the best man in the world. I lost him. Years later, after Chloe stepped onto the stage to accept her annual Album of the Year award, her first words were, "I owe it all to Ethan from our company. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. Hailed as a brilliant producer and a talented singer, Chloe was eccentric, but came from a prestigious background. Each time she received an award, she would mention my name with starry eyes, like an innocent teenager with a crush. And that was just the beginning. I went on to nurture star after star. When they received their awards, they would invariably thank me first. In time, my entertainment company gained global influence, eventually becoming the world's industry leader. I had built my entertainment empire. Finally, as the chairman of the group, I married Chloe in a powerful alliance, becoming the youngest person to ever be named the world's richest man. The memory of dying alone in a hospital bed in a previous life had faded, leaving me with only a future filled with light, legend, and endless surprises.